So my name is Jody Bailey. I'm CTO of Pluralsight, and we're here to talk about the future of work over the next couple of days. And I think that regardless of what line of work you're in, technology plays a key role in that. Around the world, there's one engineer, one developer for every 5 technology positions. At Pluralsight, we're developing a platform to help people learn technology around the world. At Andela, you're taking a different approach to dealing with that. And in order to solve that future of work problem, we're going to have to take it globally, and we're going to have to teach people how to become engineers and developers. Perhaps you could maybe introduce yourself, and then tell us a little bit about Andela and how that's working. Tolu, you want to start?
All right, thank you, Jody. My name is Tolulope Komolafe. I'm a technical team lead currently now at where I work. My company was founded in July 2014, and since then, I've seen it grown from 6 people to about 500 people right now, which is pretty great.
Andela was founded on a simple truth that brilliance is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. So what Andela does is, as Jody pointed out at the beginning, right now there's a huge shortage for quality top talent in technical expertise. And Andela seeks to bridge that gap by finding amazing developers on the African continent, shaping them into world-class developers, and then pairing them with top global companies.
So if there are one available developer for every 5 roles, Andela is there to fill that gap. So we find that there's an enormous amount of talent in Africa, and there is an enormous amount of work opportunities in North America and Europe. So we're matching the companies that need the talent with the people that are hungry and passionate about the job. So, just to give a little bit of intro, my name's Adam, head of learning, and so I'm at Andela because it's not just about talented people and quality work. It's about what are you learning from doing that work, and how are you growing as a developer. And so ideally, we can discuss a little bit today about how that work allows us to develop even more talent, and from 500 we can move to 5,000 and beyond.
So you have a pretty interesting approach to how you bring people up to speed, because not everybody comes in as an expert developer, right? So what's the process of, one, vetting somebody? As a hiring manager, it's really hard to assess talent, and you're trying to assess raw talent. Well, maybe we'll just start with that. How do you vet talent to get into the program?
Yeah, so we get probably 1,000 applications for maybe 20 spots. And what that means is there are a lot of people who are passionate about technology throughout the continent of Africa. Many of them in Nigeria and Kenya, where we're based. When they apply, we put them through the rigor, and there's like 931 data points we collect on every candidate. But more to the point, what we're trying to look for is the people who are ready to take that next leap from being locally powerful as technology developers to globally, like, setting that world-class standard and being able to basically deliver for the clients that we have at that level. But you guys might want to say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So my personal story of how I got started with Andela is I was in university studying informatics, and being in the tech world, I had heard about Andela, but it seemed definitely too good to be true. Like, what kind of company takes you without any experience as a software developer and then trains you and shapes you into world class? I thought it was too good to be true. And I attended a really cool conference called the African Women in Tech Conference in Nairobi in 2015, and Andela happened to be there hosting a breakout session. And I remember pulling one of the developers aside and asking her, okay, so is this a scam? Are you serious? Do you really get paid at the end of the month? And she told me, yeah, it's totally true. You look like you'd be a really good fit, apply. And I did. Of course, it was a very rigorous application process, but here I am almost 1 year later.
Yes, for me, I really loved coding, and I I got into tech through gaming. I used to love gaming. I played car race, and other games. And I was like, okay, this is something cool. I would want to do it. So I went to college, studied technology for 5 years. And one day, I saw these adverts online. And I saw this, I was like, okay, we are a company that would train you to be world-class software dev, and we would also pay you at the same time. And I was like, okay, this is too good to be true. Like, this is definitely a scam. But I applied, I got in, and I realized that, okay, this is actually true. Like, this is real. And since then, it's been great so far. It's been awesome. And I've grown a lot since I joined, and that was 2 years ago.
Now, as I understand it, you love the development so much, there's not so much gaming anymore.
Oh yes, I don't game anymore, and it's quite. I'm not really happy about that, but I hope in the next couple of months I'll build like a game that I would play.
That's great. Adam, you mentioned there's over 900 points that you're using to assess.
Yeah, so that's our first tier. So we have 4 tiers of developer: D1, 2, 3, and 4. And D1 we have 931 data points that we collect. And so most of that is based around our curriculum, which we developed to basically codify the work of software development. So if you can imagine, rather than machine code, we're actually thinking of it as people code. We divide it into categories like the work output, the knowledge units, the behaviors, and the beliefs. And this is all based on the learning sciences, how our brains work, how they process information, how they apply it to our work. And so we lovingly call them OKBBs, or outputs, knowledge, behaviors, beliefs. And we have 931 at the D1 level, and there's some, that goes on from there, but over thousands.
And you didn't start there, right? I mean, you've kind of evolved the program as you've gone.
Yeah, when the first day I walked into Andela, I landed in Lagos, and it was my first time on the continent, and it was really exciting. And the training team at the time had so much passion and so much heart, and what they didn't have was the learning sciences. So that's where my career started in tech and education. And so I brought some of that work to Andela, and what we found was, with the hunger and the passion and the talent, the as you called it, raw talent, when you train that, when you focus that through the lens of cognitive science, behavioral design, all of the different things that we've been using, you get this really nice outcome. And it makes me so happy to wake up every morning, because I know that every time we're iterating each day on not only our curriculum, but on how we interact, how we collaborate, how we work distributedly. There's just a lot of stuff that we get to learn every day.
That's great. I'm curious too, because you're looking at so many points. I mean, not everybody that's there necessarily has a university degree. Is that right?
Yes,
That's true.
correct.
We get about 80% have a university degree in either comp sci or engineering, but we're open to all. And in fact, in one of our last cohorts, we had a former marketing manager and a former fisherman, and they were both in the same cohort, and now they're working together side by side developing software.
Well, the fisherman I can understand, but marketing? So could you tell me about your application process? Because with that many applicants, it can't be easy to get in, right? Or was it?
No, it wasn't easy. So what happens is, first of all, there's a very simple online application form that you fill out, basic information like your name, if you got a degree, what the degree was in, and from there we then send you what we call the plum test, which is a really interesting IQ sort of test where we would like to see your logical reasoning. And then we also have what we call our home study, where applicants can follow a really simple curriculum that gets them up to speed with the basics of computer science and software engineering and programming in Python. And once you do go through that home study, then you do a proctored test. And the people who do really well in that test get to the next stage, which is our face-to-face interviews. This is where we want to see who you are as a person, what passion you have for technology, what you bring to the table. And then the next stage, if you do well in that, is our 2-week bootcamp, which is the most rigorous 2 weeks of my life. So what happens is you come in, you build up on what you did during the home study, and then you do a project. And this project could be a web application or a console application, and then you present it to the entire Andela family, from Lagos to Nairobi to New York to San Francisco, because sometimes it's actually live streamed, which is nerve-wracking, but very, very character building as well. And the people who do well in that presentation of their projects do ultimately get selected to join the fellowship. So that's less than 0.5% of all applicants.
Wow. But what's interesting to me about that is that Andela is trying to do two things, right? We want to hire. Every company out here wants to hire.
Right.
But we also want to support the growth of the community. Mm-hmm. We're in Lagos, we're in Nairobi, and we want to be able to, if we have 1,000 applicants and 20 people get jobs, what do we do with the other 980, right? And so we're trying to deliver value both from a learning experience and from a hiring experience. I think it's actually one of the things that every company could try and ask themselves, what happens with the people who apply but we don't actually hire? How are we actually promoting or supporting them? What we found is that because the bootcamp experience, even the people who don't get hired say, this was life-changing, they apply the next round. Some of them are two or three times in because they kept learning and growing, and then they get the job.
Well, and I think both of you are active in your local communities, right? In terms of technology, meetups, et cetera. Maybe could you tell us about that?
Okay, currently I'm part of a program called Teen Code. What we do is teach teenagers between the age of 9 and 16 how to code. We've been doing that for about 4 months now. And I would say it's been really, it's been fun so far. We've had about 400 people apply, and we've trained about 100 now, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, it's been good, and I'm actually glad to be part of that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I would say that Andela absolutely has a concerted and deliberate effort to give back to the tech communities around us. And this happens both on an individual level, the Andela developers, as well as Andela itself. So personally, I am involved with Django Girls. I don't know if you all know what Django is. Django is a web framework based on the Python programming language. And Django Girls is a global movement that aims to provide one-day workshops for girls and women who've never programmed before and get them to build their first website and really just spark that interest in programming for the first time. So we have that both in Andela Kenya, and Andela Nigeria has done that as well. So that's just one of the things that we do.
And that brings up a really interesting point, at least to me. You guys have really set, by industry standards, a high standard or target in terms of hiring women into the program. Could you tell us more about that?
Sure.
Well, I'll start with the numbers. If you look at the global percentage, it's about 6% of women in software development, 6% of the workforce. And so we set a target of 35%. And you want to describe when we hit that?
Yeah, sure. So at Andela, we make a concerted effort to have more women join our teams and join as developers, because as he said, globally there's a real shortage of women in tech. So at Andela, we have what we call our all-female recruitment cycles, where we have certain recruitment cycles that are only open to women, and sometimes men apply, which is very interesting. But generally, it's just women who are supposed to apply. And thanks to those, we are currently at 30% women developers in Nairobi, and I think we just hit 20 in Lagos, which is a lot higher than the global average, but still we want to get to 50-50.
That's awesome. And what about the work environment as a woman? I know there can be, at least in the US, described a bro culture. Do you feel welcomed in the environment there?
Oh yes, I do. Every day I wake up in the morning and I'm happy to actually go to work. because yes, we have guys, we have ladies, but everyone don't see themselves as, don't see each other as you are a guy and I'm a lady. Everybody just see each other as I'm a developer, I'm a very good developer, I'm a badass developer. So yeah, to me that is just how it should be, and yeah, that's how
awesome.
we run Andela.
Very cool. Now, why did, I mean, there are a lot of places you could have developed a program like this, I assume. Why did you choose, the areas that you chose?
Is the question why Africa?
Why Africa?
I was asking that too. So I joined Andela about 1.5 years ago, and I was like, why Africa? There are plenty of places where people could learn this craft. It's a valuable profession. And then like I said, I landed there and I met the people, and I suddenly realized, like, absolutely Africa. Like, it has to be, right? Like, this is where people are passionate, they're hungry, they will find us, they will find Andela. The applicant number, the fact that we get so many amazing developers. I mean, when you look at growing from 6 people to almost 600 in the last 3 years, and 400 of those are developers, I mean, maybe if you're Uber or something, you're hiring that fast, right. But you're certainly attritioning faster. We don't have any attrition. We have 99% retention on our developers and 400 in 3 years. That's the numbers don't lie, but the experience, I guess, would be interesting to hear from you guys.
Yeah, whenever I think of the question, why Africa, I always reply, why not Africa? When you think about Africa, it has the world's fastest growing population, most of whom are under the age of 35, really high internet penetration rates, really fast uptake of technology. Thinking about places like Kenya, where M-Pesa, a revolutionary mobile money technology, came out. Places like Lagos, where tech hubs are growing day by day. Why not Africa? It's an amazing space to be, especially right now in terms of technology, so many hubs coming up. And I think Andela is really taking advantage of the fact that we have so many young, bright people in our continent.
That's awesome. So as a hiring manager in the US, one of the things that comes to mind is, well, what about the infrastructure and technology? Has that been a challenge or not?
I mean, anywhere you go in the world, you have to set up electricity, you have to set up internet access, you have to set up the right environment. What we've found is it takes a little bit of work. It certainly took a little bit of work in Lagos. We moved offices several times. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Tolu, you can tell us, what about Epic Tower now? How is that as a work environment?
Okay. Epic Tower right now is one of the fun places to work in Lagos. Everyone in Lagos right now are kind of jealous of us. Like, oh my God, you guys have an amazing office space. Fast connection. We have like one of the best one in the city. And it's just a very fun place to work. It's clean, it's big, and it allows you to think fast. And really, I just love going to work every day. Sometimes I feel like sleeping back at work, just staying back, because like that's the kind of place it is.
Very cool. So as you're growing so quickly, I know as a technology company that's growing quickly, culture is really important. How does culture play into Andela, and is that a concern as you're growing, and how do you manage that?
Culture is definitely very important at Andela. Throughout all our offices, whether it's San Francisco or New York or Lagos or Nairobi, we have what we call our epic culture, a culture of excellence, passion, integrity, and commitment. And these are the things that really keep us going. So each office space really does have its own unique culture. There are things you'd find in Lagos that you wouldn't necessarily find in Nairobi. So we've found a way to make it our own. Yet there are things that across the board, everybody is really happy to do, whether that's, having lighthearted conversations on Slack, and various other technologies really help us keep the culture going at Andela.
process.
And just to add to that, I met 2 days ago for the first time, like face to face. But it feels like we've actually known each other for a very long time because we talk on Slack and on Skype like almost every day. So yeah.
And that's part of building a distributed team, right? Where you, regardless of what office you're working in, you already feel like you are deeply connected. And so, learning department, we have 30 employees, and then we're supporting over 200 of our developers. And so we have to make sure that those relationships are strong and they're built on the foundation of our values. And it's something I recommend for anyone in charge of hiring and talent sourcing is, what does your onboarding process look like? How do you know that, Tolu was one of our first developers, Mbithe is a D1. I came in a year and a half ago. When a company's growing that fast, how do you know that, you're getting the same experience, that they're able to share that kind of collective wisdom born out of entering into the same community?
Great. Now, D1's a level 1 developer, is that, okay. Now, as I recall, part of your training onboarding is really helping people learn how to work remotely. And what does that look like? I mean, you talked about a few of the things, but I'm sure there's more to that.
Yeah, I mean, I consider my office to be Slack. Like, I'm 30% of the time I'm in North America, 30% of the time I'm in Africa. The rest of the time I'm floating around and meeting people like you guys. And so, to me, it's about being deliberate with communication. Mm-hmm. It's about setting up pretty rigorous standards about when do you show up and how do you show up to invites. How do you manage that communication? I think the work world is transitioning from this place where we used to say, okay, when they're in the office, then we know they're working, and when they're out, I don't know. And now everyone's working distributed, right? Like, so many of our offices are all over the world, different time zones. I have to wake up at 5 in the morning and make sure that I'm on some of those calls. But other than that, it really is a nicer experience to me because it doesn't matter where I am. I can be connected to my community, my colleagues, at any time.
So do you have advice for managers, say somebody like me that's trying to have a distributed team? What are the keys to success in terms of leading a team like that?
Yeah, and I'll speak, but I mean, you guys are also team leads in many ways, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts. But the first thing that I realized managing a team with, like I said, 30 people spread over 4 different time zones, 4 cities, is if you're not, let's say, memifying your work requests, if it's not catchy, then you're not going to be keeping up with distributed work. So I'm 36. I sit right between the Gen X and the millennial generation, and so I'm trying to borrow from both. The Gen Xers would say, "Oh, okay, well, here your KPIs, your deliverables, this is what you have to do." Millennials would be like, "Let's have fun. Let's make some interesting, entertaining, and engaging memes as part of our culture." So we actually have about 900 different emojis on Slack, and whenever I post something, I know that I have to post it. It has to be really really well thought out, and then I get all the fire emojis and the thumbs up and all of that stuff. So I know if I'm doing a good job as a manager, if the response is both the work gets done, but also there's that enthusiasm from my team. So
it's a new KPI, number of emojis.
Yeah, exactly. How many fire emojis does my meme get?
Okay. In the last 2 years, I've learned that the best way to work with people is to build trust. And the way I do that is to chat with people, crack jokes with them sometimes, tell them, okay, ask them, what did you do yesterday at home, like after work, and just try to build that feeling, right, of trust. And I say that has worked for me pretty well over the last 2 years, building trust between other people in your team.
So I'm curious, does the humor translate?
Does what?
Does the humor translate?
Oh, not all the time. Like, have you guys told a joke and you actually know that that joke is good, it's funny, and no one gets it? And you just have to like explain, and you're like, wait, I'm explaining this joke. It's actually a good one. Why am I explaining it? But no one gets it. And yeah, sometimes you might feel silly when you do such and then you don't get it. For me, for the first 3 months, it was kind of hard for me, like, okay, I tell all these jokes and no one gets, and sometimes everyone gets the joke and I'm the only one sitting there just like, I don't even know why these guys are laughing, but after the first 3 months, I kind of got it, right? I started flowing with it. I realized, okay, in New York, when you say this, it's actually funny. And in Lagos, they also know that, okay, when I say this, you guys should laugh. So yeah.
We have this phrase, you own your own learning. And so anyone who joins Andela, we say, you own your own learning. And part of that learning is learning how to enculturate with another team. And that's a big part of doing distributed work. Every Andelan developer is both an Andelan and then a member of our client team. And so they have to work with both of those identities, establish that cultural translation, get each other's jokes, explain each other's jokes until you don't have to anymore. But it's almost like you own your own learning translates into bring your own belonging. And to me, that's one of the really powerful things about the culture, and one of the things that I don't think you find until you go distributed, until you have a multinational experience.
Now, were you gonna, Tolu, so you've been working with the company in New York for a while now. So maybe tell us a little bit about that experience. I mean, we know the first few months, they didn't get the jokes, but that might be on them, right? But other than that, what's the experience been like, and what's been the good part, the challenging parts, etc.?
Okay. Currently, I work with a company based in New York called the name of the company is Everplans, and basically what we do is we help people plan end of life. We don't really like saying we help people plan for death, but that's part of what we do. We help people get all their affairs in order so they can share with their friends and their loved ones. In case of anything, it could be a coma, it could be anything. And I've been with them for about 2 years now. I'm a full member of the dev team. I help them build their app, both the back end and the front end. And it's been great working with smart people, right, from different parts of the world. And for me, one thing I really love about them is the fact that I'm building something and I see that people are using it on the different side of the world. I'm in Lagos, but I'm changing lives from Lagos. And for me, that's what I want to be doing. One thing that is challenging about it is sometimes the time zone can be a little bit challenging. Right now, they are 5 hours behind Lagos. And I realize that I have to sometimes walk between 1 p.m. and 10 p.m. when normally I would probably get to work at 8 a.m. and then leave work at 5 p.m. But I just had to adjust. Right. So yeah, we could work better. So that's one of the challenges. But I find that I actually enjoy working in the afternoon. I found out after I started working with them that I'm not so much a morning person. So that has really helped.
You've been converted, huh?
Yes, yes. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mbithe, so maybe tell us a little bit about the projects that you're working on and how that's going for you.
Sure. So at Andela, part of the learning experience is 2 things. One we call simulations and the other apprenticeship. So once you get into Andela, you begin by being in a simulations project, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're working on a project that's simulated, not quite in the real world yet, but made to look like something that you'd work on for a partner or a client. And our simulated teams are also distributed as well. So when I was doing my simulations, I worked with developers in Lagos. So right from the start, you have to learn how to work with a team remotely, a team from the other side of the continent where jokes might not necessarily translate. And then after that stage, you move on to what we call apprenticeship, which is when you work with a more experienced software engineer on a real world problem, something that's actually being used by users. And what I did was a really interesting internal system where we match Andela developers with some of our partner companies so that they can do some distributed work for them. So far, it's been an amazing experience. I have learned so much in this past year.
Yeah, we basically combined research in simulators, medical simulations, military simulations, and with research in Silicon Valley and New York-based software development teams. So we combined the two to create our software development simulator, which simulates the experience of working on a team, a distributed team, to build all those team skills, to build all the tech skills that you need, and then we place them on projects that are either internal or with our trusted partners, so that, again, we can make sure that every developer has the opportunity to level up to that world-class standard before they ever have to get placed with one of our clients.
Now, wasn't one of the simulations, I mean, one, you start off doing kind of a clean project, but is there another simulation where you actually go in and it's not so clean and you have to kind of figure out how to make it work?
It's actually two projects. So the first project is, imagine you're on the perfect run software development team. The product owner always shows up and they're always clear and concise.
That's like all our projects.
Just exactly, everything like Pluralsight. But then there's a second project, which I won't name any names, but let's say it's a different company, and everything's kind of gone awry. And so the simulation is the experience of what do you do when everything's working smoothly, and then what happens when no one's showing up, you don't have any stories on the board, you're not sure what chores need to be worked on, and how do you navigate those waters. So hopefully none of our clients ever have that experience, but you can find yourself somewhere in between, right, and learn how all the different scenarios, all the different cases that we'd have to cover.
So Tolu, how well do you think those simulations prepared you for Everplan?
Actually, when I was in my first few months at Andela, I didn't go through that.
Oh, didn't you?
Simulations,
okay.
Yeah. We didn't have that yet, but what I did was I was given a project and I was asked to lead a team of 5 people, and I didn't know anything about the project. Like my teammates also didn't know anything about the project, and so just like, okay, you guys have this problem, you have to build this thing in this time limit, and we just have to figure it out. And it was basically, we were thrown in, it's like swim or sink.
And was it 5 other Andela engineers, or were?
Yes,
okay.
yes, 5 other Andela engineers.
And this was your first position?
And that was my first full project.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just like swim or sink, and we all had to swim. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I have no doubt you put a lot of effort into that.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about boot camp and the effort. Maybe talk about the work and the work ethic and effort that goes into just learning and progressing through the different levels at Andela.
Oh, yeah. So for the first few months, you are supposed to pick up new tech skills, right? Like when I joined, I had never used Ruby on Rails, JavaScript. I had never used it. And I was given projects, and like, okay, you are building this in JavaScript. And then I had to start learning JavaScript. And sometimes you just, of course, I think most devs know this, you write a code and then it refuses to run. And you're trying to figure out why it's not running. And sometimes you don't sleep because in your mind, you're like, I can't sleep if this code is working. It's not
still
working.
going on in your head.
Yeah, so for the first few months, it was like that. Like sometimes just sleep like an average of 4 hours. But after a while, you see that, okay, those problems that you used to have, that you spend 2 days on it, you're spending like just one day on it, you're spending 8 hours on it, and then you start to know, like something just clicks in your head. You're like, okay, I'm actually growing, I'm actually learning things, I'm becoming better as a developer. And I've seen that from moving from D1 to D3 right now. I mean, at D1 level, I just want to get my things done. I don't care about other people. I don't care if you don't get it. But right now, I have to care about people, okay? Right. You are not getting this, then I go back and then help them also improve their tech skills.
Yeah, we have 3 dimensions on the teamwork side, communication, professionalism, and integration. And obviously communication and professionalism are mandatory and necessary, but that idea of team integration is something that we really work on, and I think it comes from the developer culture, but it's that notion of when you walk into a team, first, how do you get acclimated? And then second, how do you make sure that your contribution makes the entire team stronger? That you're actually doing more than just being a developer on that team, but you're collectively making the team just more powerful and more capable.
And have you had a similar experience as you've gone through?
Absolutely. I think what makes Andela developers stand out is we're not all about being the perfect coders, being amazing programmers who always write the best code. It's a lot more than that. It's about how we interact with each other. It's about how we manage expectations, how we manage our stakeholders. There's a lot that goes into it, and I think Andela does an excellent job of preparing us for being amazing team members.
We have this thing called Tech Leader Expo, and we invite tech leaders from around the world to come and join Andela for a day or a week or however long they can, share their wisdom and learn more about what we're up to. And we had one who came from a major multinational tech company, and he came by and after 2 days at Andela, he basically said, like, these are the people I want to work with, right? Like, no offense to my company, but like, there's some divas there. Here, everybody's like on the same side, on the same team, working hard together. These are the people that I want to build with.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? I think we talked about it yesterday. Just when you're working towards a common goal and mission, you can have conflict and disagreements because you're all trying to accomplish the same thing if you're able to have that open communication with trust, right?
Yeah, one of our, so we talked about the epic values. In one of them, it's listed that, the description is we challenge each other and walk away friends. So there's always that invitation to speak up, to say, no, I don't think that's the right direction to take this project, or you know what, that code just really didn't do its job. And we get into it, and then we always walk away friends.
So, being from Utah and having a perception of New Yorkers, right? I mean, how has that challenge worked for you working with a team from New York? Do you feel comfortable challenging, and have you been challenged?
Oh, yes. I challenge my teammates, my boss, all the time, because that's just who we are. And I feel if I don't do that, they would probably go back to Adam and say, okay, what are you guys doing here? Like, we don't want yes men, right? We want people that will actually bring things to us, like new ways of approach to things. And I challenge them, and I actually I am a challenge myself. In the last 2 years, I've learned more than I learned in 5 years in college, which is pretty awesome.
That's great. Now, your approach to teaching developers is a little different too, right? Like, you don't teach them JavaScript, you don't teach them Ruby or Python. How do you help these people become great engineers?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that principle, you own your own learning. And so I was a teacher for many years, and I think teaching is an admirable profession, but I've never considered myself really a teacher per se. I've always been a facilitator of learning experiences. I've always been what I like the title of learning architect. But like, I like to build an environment where the community of people are helping each other learn, where we put enough resources in there that there's never a place where they can't, they always have a place to go to. And to level up. And it's based on a learning sciences principle called the zone of proximal development, which is kind of like you want to find that challenge that keeps you engaged but doesn't overwhelm you. And that challenge in your work that when you reach out to someone, a little bit of assistance from them, and you overcome that challenge and you level up your own understanding of the problem. And so that we're tying that together with, like what I think is a good meme, you own your own learning. We call it yo-yo learning. We have a little emoji of a yo-yo. And so like, you own your own learning ties into this learning sciences principle, and you find that Goldilocks zone in your work. And so if there's any time when you're not feeling that amount of challenge, that kind of hard fun, then that's where the community comes in and says, okay, do you need something more to work on? Is this overwhelming? Do we need to figure out how to break it down more? But I think that's a real advantage too to the hybrid of co-located teams and distributed workforce is there's always someone there, whether they're on Slack or Hangouts or actually in the room. There's always someone there to say, okay, let's unblock and let's get through it together.
That Goldilocks principle reminds me of gaming, right? I mean, it's all the same principle, right? You want it to be challenging and fun, but not so challenging that you give up. So what kind of resources do you make available to people? Because they do own their own learning, but where do they go for, or where do you guys go to learn?
Right. One of the sites I use is Pluralsight.
Oh, good answer.
Yes, I use Pluralsight a lot. And I discovered that the best way I learn is just try out something. If it doesn't work, then I look for ways to actually make that thing work. So sometimes I go to senior developers that I feel they know they can solve my problem, and ask them, okay, this is what I'm going through. And they say, oh, just try this. And then I tried once, and then I know that, okay, next time, when I want to do search, I take this approach. And I discovered that I love that way of learning because I can go at my own pace. I can learn anything I want to learn, not what someone tells me to learn. And I can actually reach out to anyone I want to reach out to. Not basically, okay, these are the set of people you only reach out to. So I can basically take control of my own learning, how I do it, when I do it, which I think is great.
That's fabulous. How about you, Mbithe?
Well, for me, I think that Andela does a really great job of facilitating our learning. For example, she mentioned Pluralsight, and all Andela developers do get access to Pluralsight. And the amazing thing is Andela applicants get access to Pluralsight as well, which is pretty awesome. And Adam mentioned our OKBBs. So we all get our, if I'm learning, for example, Python, I have a certain curriculum of sorts that I follow that has a list of outputs and knowledge and beliefs and behaviors that I can follow if I want to learn Python, and that does make it a lot easier.
Do you have any sort of formal mentorship program within the program?
Yeah, so we do matching both cross-functionally, so we do both cross-continental matching, and then we also do tech mentorship, so matching within a particular stack or framework. And the idea is once you're through the apprenticeship program, now it's time to get matched to a mentor and or a coach. And you, again, it's maintaining that connection with the community. For me, the idea of having someone there, some people call it the rubber ducky. If you're a software developer, you've put a rubber ducky on your desk and you just talk to the rubber ducky, and that's one level of getting support, where you can just talk out your problem and suddenly you solve it and resolve it. But the next level is actually having someone else who's been there, who's gone through that experience. So one of the challenging experiences going from being Andelan developer to having those two identities, being both an Andelan and a member of Everplans. And so that experience, what we try to do is leverage people who've gone through that experience for those who haven't yet, so they can kind of coach each other through what that looks like.
Awesome. Either of you, do you have a mentor or somebody that kind of helped you get to where you are that you look up to?
Absolutely. I have several mentors for different things. At Andela, I do have some people who are at a higher level than me who I tend to go to for a lot of technical advice. And I also have some members of our New York sales team that I go to just get a different perspective of how things work. I'm a developer, so sometimes I don't have the best grasp on how the business aspect works, how clients are closed and that kind of thing. So I find that really broadens my horizons.
Same with me. I've had about 3 coaches so far, and they coach me on different things, tech skills and team skills. And right now, I mentor about 5 other people in the fellowship, also on different things, like tech skills and other skills. And I think that has helped me grow as a person, and I'm also helping other people grow.
Right.
Yeah.
So how has the Andela experience impacted you as people, in terms of your life and your trajectory forward?
My goal in life is to leave a mark on everyone I meet. And right now, I feel I'm doing that one way or the other. And the way Andela has really changed my way of thinking. Before, about 2 years ago, I always dreamt that I would work with a global company, but I felt that, okay, I would need to travel to anywhere just to work with them. But right now, I realize that, okay, I can actually sit in my room and work with any company in the world. I can sit in my room and then change lives from there. I can change lives of millions of people while sitting in my room. Like, that for me is like amazing. Like 10 years ago, we probably would not have this kind of thing. But right now, it's like, if you're not doing it, then you are kind of, you're learning or something, yeah.
That's awesome. Great. And Mbithe, how about you?
For me, I've really discovered what it means to really be a citizen of the world. I don't think very many people can say, I have friends in Lagos, I have friends in New York, I have friends in San Francisco, I have friends in Nairobi, and increasingly across more and more cities around the world. So it's been an amazing networking and learning experience. And even more importantly, our epic values have completely changed the way I think about life. I approach things in a much more epic way, like excellence, passion, integrity, commitment. Those are the things that I think Andela has really changed in my life.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions to ask people, and I guess because I ask myself this question frequently, keep myself updated, is how do you want to leave the world different than you found it? And for me, leaving it different would mean a lot more people are global citizens. A lot more people are working collaboratively together on projects that they're passionate about, on teams where there's a diversity of thought. And Andela, for me, became the best place to do that. And so in the last year and a half, I've seen so many of those transitions, those transformations. I mean, the world is changing. I'm glad we're calling this the future of work because it's something we need to talk about now. It used to be that you had school and work separate. Now, if you're not learning through your work every day, transforming your abilities, you're not keeping up. It used to be that we had teams that had to be co-located. Now, you have to keep up, in order to keep up with the acceleration, you have to be distributed and you have to learn how to work well in a distributed way. And I think there's also something that hasn't changed yet, which is there's a belief that there is just some people out there are smart and some people aren't. And it's not true. It's simply not true. The future is the belief that every human has the potential to be that thing that they want to be. And if there's just the right environment, if there's the right network, the right community surrounding them, they do become that. They do realize that potential. And so for me, that's how I want to change the world. Andela's just been the best way to do it so far.
That's fantastic. And I had the opportunity to spend time with you all yesterday, and I've got to say, maybe everybody's smart, but I think you all are exceptional, right? And what you guys are doing at Andela is amazing, and I feel really fortunate. Maybe now I can call myself a global citizen and have some friends in Nairobi and Kenya. And I just really want to thank you guys for coming here and spending time with us, and really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
Jody.
you.
Yeah.